Hello, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond. My name is Taylor, and welcome to Fae Farm, a brand new little 3D indie farming simulator brought to us and published by Phoenix Labs. Before we get into the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff, because it really helps out the channel, and I really appreciate it. Now, right off the bat, I do want to say I was gifted a game code through Keymailer, so I did receive this product for free, and I do have the deluxe version. Now, with that being said, I will not let that impact my review, though I will say right off the bat, it is pretty positive. So for full disclosure, Fae Farm is available on Steam, Epic Game Store, and Nintendo Switch for $49.99 Canadian for the standard version, or $79.99 Canadian for the deluxe version. So again, I do have the deluxe version, I was rather lucky to get it, and I want to say a huge thank you to the developer and publisher, Phoenix Labs, for gifting me this code. Now, let's get into it. Fae Farm is, I don't want to say another 3D indie farming simulator, but it kind of is with its own little twist, and they all have their own little twists, which I do appreciate. Now, I don't have a lot of experience in this genre, unlike many other YouTubers who may be covering this game. The most that I've ever played pretty much is Stardew Valley. I own other games like My Time at Portia or Sun Harvest or things like that. I have not played them yet, and I may do so in the future, but I have limited frame of reference for this game, just throwing that out there right now. And to me, this very much felt like Stardew Valley mixed with Animal Crossing, which I do have a bit of experience with, if not a ton. So with that being said, why don't we start off with the story? It honestly starts out pretty simple. After you make your character, which we'll be discussing in a little bit, you decide, after seeing a message in a bottle that's written, quote, kindly, you're going to set off with adventure in your heart and the wind in your sails before getting sucked into a giant whirlpool and ending up on this little island. Now, the mayor greets you, says, hey, thanks for reading my message in the bottle. Turns out she sent it, and then quickly offers you a plot of land to live there. After saying, of course, with the whirlpools, they don't get many visitors, they'd love to have you, and your character just goes, okay, why not? So yeah, again, a pretty basic plot setup, though it does get more interesting as time goes on. Now, I will say, the footage I've recorded is only from the first 2.5 hours of me playing, just because I wanted to get a good feel for what you would be experiencing within the usual refund window, especially on Steam, which is about 2 hours, so I try to focus on that specifically. However, I will say I have gone back to the game since then, and put in an additional 6 hours over a shorter time frame than I would care to admit. So my opinions of the game have absolutely changed over the course of that time, and I can really see where it is going beyond those 2 hours. So with that being said, let's take a quick look at what you're going to be doing for at least those first few hours. The game is pretty heavy on giving you little objectives like, okay, go talk to this person, they'll give you a quest to make this thing, or clear out part of your farm, or grow, this kind of crop. And I know you're probably pretty used to that through Stardew Valley or other games, but this one's a little heavier in terms of, hey, here's your next objective, here's your next objective, here's your next objective, oh wait, look at that, your next objective. Now, for some people, that's going to be really grating. I totally understand. You're not necessarily playing this kind of game to be told, hey, do this, or do that, or do that. You just kind of, know the ropes, you have a relative idea of what you should be doing, and you just want to get to it. I totally get that. For me, though, it was kind of different. So I do like the freedom to do as I please in Stardew, but I also found that I never really optimized. I kind of lazed around, I grew what I thought was the best crop, and then realized there's so much more I could have been doing with my time, and I just wasn't, and that was fine with me. I still was really happy to play Stardew for 40 plus hours, not including my time with Chris and John. I'll link that series, a couple of series actually, down in the description below. But I also got all achievements for Stardew, so I know exactly kind of how I feel about that game, and it was a very different feeling to this game. So part of that is Stardew Valley was very much farm focused for the most part, and like you could do things with fishing, you could do things with farming, you could do things with mining, and they all felt very independent from one another. Sure, mining gave you materials and minerals to upgrade your items, but that was about it. Now, Fae Farm is very different, so it takes a little while to find its feet. In the first few hours, it was kind of, oh, go do this, oh, go do this other thing, oh, go do this other thing. It felt a little disparate and a little disconnected, but it all started to come together. And I also noticed about, say, an hour, hour and a half in, it was kind of, okay, go to the mines. Okay, go deeper in the mines. Okay, go even deeper in the mines. Now, this was done with the guise of, hey, the origins of the whirlpools for some reason started in this one mine, or as it's called, a dungeon, because you do fight the monsters in there, which, weirdly enough, are trash that has absorbed magical powers and is now alive. But as far as I can tell, and I unfortunately don't have footage of most of this because this was more stuff that I had seen after my 2.5 hours of recording footage, was pocket watches, a treasure chest, an anchor, a ship wheel, and then like a cannon that turned into a pig that shot cannonballs. So like the first few, I get it, you know, the pocket watch, the treasure, or it might have been a compass actually, the anchor, the steering wheel for a ship. These are all things you would find in a shipwreck. These are all things that would have been pulled down by the whirlpool, and even the cannons. I just don't know why the cannons were turned into pigs. So that was a little weird, but all in all, it definitely had a much bigger focus on mining, and there was a lot of things, a lot of progression routes locked behind that because this dungeon was tied directly to story progression. Now, I will not get into the spoilers of that. I think you should experience it for yourself. It's nothing major, but it's a cute little story. And do know that once you finish that first dungeon, it took me, I think I was around hour 7-ish. And I was kind of really focusing it. Once I did that, though, it opened up a lot because, spoiler alert, the whirlpools go away. I'm not going to tell you how, I'm not going to tell you why, but it means that more people come into the village or the town, and then you can start doing more things with those additional people. Now, the basics, as you'll be seeing on screen, is just, you mine, you plant crops, you catch bugs, and you forage for things. And you can make... you can craft stuff, you can do all sorts of things that are pretty typical with these games. Now, there are a few differences. For example, in the dungeons, to unlock the next floor, you either have to mine up a rock and find the button that opens the door. So kind of like in Stardew when you're mining and you go down a set of stairs, same idea. However, you can also craft what's known as a dungeon seal. Now, these dungeon seals come in multiple tiers depending on what you make it out of. The farther you go into a dungeon, the higher level seal you're going to need. But the thing is, when you unlock that seal, when you put that in the pedestal, it becomes a fast travel point to that floor of the dungeon, similar to the elevator system in Stardew. But now it's every floor of the dungeon. And the first one does only have 25 floors. I have not unlocked the other two. But it was really nice to have not only the door stay permanently open, but also have that fast travel point to any floor I wanted. And in the dungeon tracker, which shows you how many floors you've unlocked, it tells you which resources are abundant, which resources are less common, depending on the floor you're on. So it really helps you narrow down where you need to go without, say, keeping a wiki open half the time. In terms of the crops, there's not much for me to say. Like, it's pretty basic there as far as I can tell, though I haven't delved too much into that. If you've watched the Stardew series, you know I'm very much the miner. I'm very much the hunter. So that was more where I put my time. So I was happier when they put the story emphasis in the mines, in the dungeons, because it's the area that I was most familiar with, that I was probably going to spend the most time in, and it's the area that's helped make me the most money. Now, there are plenty of ways to make money in the game. It's called florins. But what I did, I basically just crafted a whole bunch of copper seals, sold them, and then just I only did farming or like animal husbandry as far as a quest, but then when I didn't have to do it, I didn't really engage with it. But now I'm getting more into that, and it's, again, a fairly basic system as far as I can tell, though I have not fully delved into the complexity of it all. So you heard me ramble on and on about the dungeon, but then obviously I'm not saying much about the other things because I haven't really explored them as much, though I will say there's a ton of crafting options here. Maybe more so than in Stardew, in terms of not necessarily a theme, but like a variety of things that doesn't seem super mismatched. It's like Stardew was very much just all these little different trinkets and knickknacks, which I did appreciate, but this one here in Fae Farm is more themed, like it all makes a little more sense. And when you customize your house, you can actually open up a menu. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of it. And you can just select different categories of furniture. Now, certain categories will give you faster health regen, certain categories will give you faster energy regen, and then another category will give you faster mana regen. I know what you're thinking, mana, hang on, spells, magic, okay, wait. So as the name implies with Fae, fairy, things like that, spirits, you can cast spells. So what I found is that when you get up to iron tools, so you go from basic tools to copper to iron, iron to, copper to iron. When you get iron tools, you can use magic spells, which basically means you can water in a 3x3 grid or attack stone or wood, also in a 3x3 grid. So it's basically just upgrading from Stardew, except a little bit different in the sense you have to get up to iron first, and it does use mana. Now, in addition to that, however, you have a magic staff, which in the beginning you're just using to hit monsters with. You don't get a sword, you just hit them with a staff. Though after you defeat the first dungeon, you unlock a new spell, which helps you get to previously locked off areas. And you'll notice this too. The wand is very much the staff is very much used for progression. It's used a little bit in combat, but it's primarily for story progression or getting into different areas you couldn't access before. Which I thought was really cool. And I apologize, I will be jumping around a lot in this video, just because there's a lot for me to talk about, and I didn't structure it. I just got off, like I said, a long play session that brought me up to those 8 hours, and I'm like, okay, there's more here than I thought, and I want to talk about it all. So I'm going to be a little rambly, and I do apologize for that. Beyond the wand, like I said, you're able to catch bugs, catch fish. The fishing, again, pretty standard, pretty normal. I've found a few different types, but nothing major yet. And it's the bug catching that really reminded me of Animal Crossing, as well as just kind of the art style a little bit. Just where you're catching different bugs, and then you put them in this little enclosure that you make, where you basically trade the bug for a consumable crafting material that then they kind of leave the area you put them in, but they leave behind the crafting material, so it's an interesting trade-off. Now, I have not unlocked a community center or museum type mechanic yet, so I do not know if that is in the game. But I think it'd be really cool if it was, because you catch, a small variety of bugs, a small variety of fish, you grow a small variety of crops, and then it would just be cool. Well, plus you mine a whole bunch of stuff. It would be cool to be able to put them in a museum and just see them, But also it wouldn't make sense if there was a museum with nothing in it for, a town that's been inhabited for, I don't know how long, that have nothing in it. Which actually brings me to another interesting point in the flowers. So, in this game, flowers are primarily cosmetic, but what you can do is you can crossbreed flowers. So, for example, if you make a 3-square flower plot, you put red on one side, white on the other side, and then leave the middle blank, they will eventually cross-pollinate into a pink flower in the middle. And that's actually one of the quests you're given, is to do that. So they're clearly thinking in terms of actual, real-life mechanics, or real-life systems, so to speak, where different plants can cross-pollinate and create mutations, which I think is really cool, and I can't wait to delve into that system further. Now, I will say, one major difference between this game and, say, something like Stardew Valley is the social system. So they do explain it pretty early on. You cannot make social relationships with absolutely everyone. Not like in Stardew. Many people do not have kind of heart events or a heart tracker. So any shop owner, as they put it, does not have time to make friends. They're there to sell you things, and that's about it. Which, fine. This isn't some small town, or at least it is a small town, but they're no longer isolated. Like, the business people want a business. They want to sell things. They want to get down to it and move on. So I sort of get it. It's a little disappointing because I did love the social system and the variety of hard events that we had in Stardew. And maybe one day those will be introduced here, but I would not hold my breath for that, and that's fine. It's important that I acknowledge that they are two very different things, and that you acknowledge that as well. So if you played Stardew and love the social aspect of it, great. That is not replicated to the same level here. That being said, there are a number of NPCs who you can make friends with, and they do break down in the social menu which NPCs you can have which NPCs you can be friends with versus which ones are romanceable. Now, as far as I can tell too, there is no restriction around gender preference or orientation. Your character can romance any potentially romanceable character, and you can romance characters that are non-human. You can romance more of a fae-looking creature. Now, for some people, again, this is going to be a bit of a hit and miss, just because there's not, as I say, as much depth to the characters themselves so far. A lot of them have a little descriptor like, oh, this is the introverted person who likes collecting ancient scrolls and reading books in the corner. This is the wisest wizard, also the only wizard in town. Just like little descriptors to help you get a feel for their personality or what they are meant to portray, but you don't get a lot of meaningful dialogue yet. Now, I have not romanced any NPCs. I have befriended a few who you may befriend, though I am trying to romance one now. So I don't know if there are significant or memorable heart events, though it does say you can take the eligible NPCs on dates before marrying them. So again, that could be replacing or their version of heart events, and I will, if I have reached that point by the time the video goes live, put something on screen. Otherwise, I may just put a comment on the video. And please feel free to, comment any questions you have. Again, I have a lot more time in the game than I did at the time of recording, and I will have more time in the game by the time this video goes live, so any comments, questions, I'm happy to answer. So with all that being said, there are places, again, where there is maybe more depth than something like Stardew, and then there is less, again, with the social systems, but this game isn't looking to replicate the same depth in their social system. This game is very much trying to tell more of a story. There is more of a linear story progression here. And I have basically, as far as I can tell, encountered maybe the first either 20% or possibly 25%. I'm not 100% sure. And I'm really curious to see where the story goes. It's inconsequential, it's small scale, it's, nothing that's going to make me cry at the end, but it's something that I enjoy. It's something that's nice and just relaxing. And I will fully admit, work has been a little stressful, we've been busy. So for me to be able to just sit down for a few hours and just play a game I don't have to try hard at, I don't have to think about, is nice. And I will say the context I'm in right now maybe means I enjoy the game more than I would otherwise. Honestly, for the price, I don't think it's a bad deal per se, but I don't know exactly how many hours I can get out of it. So when I do finish the game and I feel like I've done everything I wanted to do, I will, again, just leave a comment as to how long it took me. Though I could easily see someone getting, 25, maybe 30 hours if you squeezed it. So at that point, it is up to you. Do you believe that 30 hours or so, and again, that's just me ballparking it, is reasonable for $59.99 Canadian, or even $79.99 Canadian, again, for the deluxe version? I think it'd be okay. I'm more open to moving away from the $1 should equal 1 hour of entertainment kind of comparison, just as I get older and as I play different games and realize I don't have time for that. I don't have time for an 80-hour game, and if I do, I'm playing it for months because I don't sit down 4 hours at a time to play a game anymore. And that's fine, my life has changed, I'm happy with that. But it's also, again, made me reevaluate kind of what I think about the games and how much time I want to spend in them, and this has just been super relaxing. Now, I will say that by the end of my 8 hours, which I have currently, I am not even through spring. I am in spring 23, I think? So I don't know if it's the 28-day cycle that is pretty common with these games, though I would imagine it is. Each day is definitely longer, though. So it doesn't just tick by in, I think it was 5-minute intervals in Stardew. It just, every minute ticks by, not in real time, but just, you can see every minute, and you have to be in bed by midnight. Oh, sorry, that's one thing I forgot to mention. If you pass out, there are no consequences. You wake up in your house, you don't, as far as I can tell, lose any energy or mana or health or anything like that. You keep your items, your stuff still sells. So there's no penalty for staying out all night, and I will say that definitely made me more aggressive in terms of my playstyle, especially in the mines. I would just keep mining until I passed out. But that was just, it was a nice change, and I think there are some nice quality of life changes here, like the fact that you can jump which is interesting. Oh, completely forgot to mention, you can swim in this game, which is kind of different for me. I was not expecting to be able to swim, and when you jump out of the water, you kind of jump like a fish, which was really, really unexpected. So I think the last thing I wanted to talk about is the character creator, because I realized I haven't done that yet. Now, the character creator is interesting. It definitely provides you with a good number of options, though I will say majority of the options leave you as this kind of androgynous, maybe female or feminine leaning type of character, regardless of the eyes, regardless of the head shapes that they give you. You can put a beard on your character. You can also decide on your character's pronouns in terms of they, them, he, she, her, or he, him. I think it's nice. It allows people to express who they are or who they want to portray in this game. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's great. It doesn't hurt anybody, so, if anyone complains, my question to you is why? It's not hurting you. It helps more people get the representation they feel they need, and I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't change anything. Again, as far as I can tell, romanceable characters don't care about what particular pronouns you decide on, and they just call you by your Steam profile name or your Nintendo name or your Epic Game Store name anyway, so it's not like it really matters. All in all, it was a really fun game, and it continues to be a really fun game, and I will make sure I leave any updates, any major things that I feel should be mentioned in the description down below, or in the comments. So make sure to check back with this video on occasion, just because I will, again, be answering any sort of questions that you guys have, or putting in any additional information down there. One more thing I completely forgot to mention, and only realized after I'd finished the first recording, is this game is fully multiplayer, with up to 4 players. So that means everything that I've talked about, all of the cool stuff that you can do with friends right now, which I do think kind of helps soften the blow in terms of the lack of social interaction with the NPCs, because this game strikes me as a lot of fun to sit around, decorate a farm, and just explore together. Like, it very much feels like there are more things you could do together in this game, especially in like the dungeons or other areas that offers a lot more variety. So again, huge plus for them having multiplayer right off the bat. I think that's great, and I wanted to make sure I included that because I completely forgot to do it in the first recording. With all that being said, I wanted to say one more quick thank you to Phoenix Labs. I'm honored that you allowed me a game code. I appreciate it. So I did get this game for free. I did not let that impact my opinion of the game, though it is part of the reason I'm making a video on it. I'm really enjoying the game. Again, recorded 2.5 hours, now have 8. I'll have plenty more by the time the video goes up. With all that being said, if you guys want more of these videos, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm hoping to do more like showcase videos or first impressions videos in the future. And I'd love to hear from you as to what games you might want to see, so I can make sure to ask for keys for those, because I am broke. Anyway, thank you so much for sitting through my incoherent ramblings for the last 20 plus minutes. Really appreciate you being here. If you haven't already, please, again, like, comment, subscribe. Really helps out the channel. I'd love to see it grow. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!